Welcome to the No Limits podcast, where breakthrough strategies in therapeutic education help neurodivergent children learn, connect, and grow in powerful new ways.
Hi, and welcome to the No Limits podcast for children with unique abilities. My name is Laura Joslin. A little background on me. I'm the CEO of Ability Plus Therapy, which is a pediatric rehab facility. I'm the co-founder of No Limits Academy, which is a school for kids with unique abilities, a lot of unique abilities. And also the co-founder of an education technology, No Limits Method, which teaches you how to do what we're doing. So today my guests are Dr. Tally Foster, who's an occupational therapist at Ability Plus Therapy. She's worked in the field for a very long time and she's an excellent therapist. And my wonderful business partner, Roberta Neves, who is the most amazing physical therapist I've ever met, and just a gift to children that get treated by her. Anyway, I'm going to start this conversation off today with talking about in our No Limits method, meeting all the needs of our students, right? And we're in the physical part of it. And our first podcast was about like movement and positioning and how that works. And now we're going to tell you about what we've seen, right? What are the stories behind the successes that, just this one part of the entire method, that starts from communication, choice, meeting all their needs. This is just the physical part, then neurodevelopment, social development. We cover it all, right? But this is just one specific part. So we're going to tell you the success stories and what do we see when we incorporate this into education and how it's done. Because I know a lot of teachers, therapists will walk into their classrooms and then just tell them what to do and walk away, right? And it's not the fault of either party. It's just two professional voices not understanding how to talk to each other is what that's what I think. But that doesn't get to the child's needs. So we're going to tell you how we've incorporated these two together, and then how these professions are working to get to that child and to get them educated. So I'm going to start off with Tally. I know that you've had lots of experiences, and we kind of use the No Limits Academy as a research facility for the last 19 years. So
it's definitely been an opportunity to see these things in action with kids on a daily basis, and bridging that gap so that we have that collaboration and communication. And that is key. I mean, we do a lot of that where we teach you something and expect that makes sense. We need to be demonstrating. We need to be covering some of the logistics. An example story I can think of is someone who was struggling with math concepts, so spatially, struggling with, in particular, like geometric kind of concepts. And it was like math was fine until it got to this point that it was like orienting objects and trying to figure out, and it just wasn't making sense. And in the collaborative process, because the children teach us so much, we were able to learn that what was missing was understanding the movement of objects. And for a child who hasn't really moved their own body through space independently, that was missing. So it translated into understanding an academic concept, and it just took trial and error and demonstrating and figuring out how we do that for and with them. So it was about manipulating objects, and if they can't manipulate them, you guide them through that. But this child needed to experience it for real, not just on a screen, not just virtually. That had been tried. You see things, it didn't make sense. But if you've not flipped objects over or your body over or different things, then those concepts don't translate. And that made all the difference in this case. And just seeing that kind of explosion of concepts connecting, because just because maybe objects on a table were being manipulated with them, help move them, help guide them, help create things, even if it's hand over hand guided, even if it's, whatever it is, it's tangible in its movement, and they had to move to different positions to see it from different views. And then all of a sudden that clicked, and that particular person is thriving at a high level of university education. So it's really amazing to see what can happen when those gaps are filled, and that physical component can be part of it. We understand now that that's why some things don't connect in meaning, right, until you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we have also an example of a child that I can think of. So now going at a lower level, who was always falling asleep. Like most of the day, he was asleep. And just by being in the Limits Academy for a short period of time, I mean, we started in July. He started with us in July. And so now it's, September, and we see an awakening in his body. Like with all the movement that he's getting, he is waking up. And it's so nice to see, because how you're going to learn if you're asleep most of your day, right? So he is awake, he is engaged, and it's just so beautiful to see that just adding that component to his education has made a huge, tremendous difference for him. And I can think of another child too who has been with us for many years. And when he first started with us, mom was, told us that he had a CT scan of his brain, and they found that, like obviously he had a brain injury, and so there's various areas of his brain that weren't active. And within I think it was like a couple of years of being here in the Limits Academy, he had another scan, and the doctors were amazed by the areas that were active at that point that, were not at the first time that he had the scan. And so it's like, they even asked, what are you doing different, that we see this change? And she's like, well, it must be No Limits Academy, because he is stimulated. He is getting, gaining a lot of experience and exploring his environment that he never really had the opportunity in the past. So it's just so beautiful to see the changing these kids, and sometimes in a short period of time. And, so we're really awakening their brain, and we see that over and over and over again. So it's awesome to see. And this can happen with any child.
And that's why the cognitive component, education, you have to understand. Cognitive is understanding of something, the thinking of something, right? So you have to have that in place. You have to have all this in place so that you can get the most out of these kids. And what I've seen is none of this has been put together, right? It's not been put together. It's not been then disseminated out into like a classroom for a teacher to understand. And, even in our first, in the first time that we said, okay, therapists and teachers have to work together, because we started Ability and then we started No Limits, and it was like a foreign concept, and I didn't realize how much it was needed. Not that it was unwilling on either party here, but it was just not the connection. And now that we're seeing all these success stories, we understand that this is the way to go. And that teachers need to understand on a different level how their children function in their medical diagnoses, because they're walking in to a child with a medical diagnosis and they're like, I'm a teacher. I learned to teach, and I don't know what this means, right? And then when you try to catch a busy therapist, it's not translating over, right? So for me, it was really important to define them all, right? And get all these amazing professionals together to really tell you how to work, within that component. And I can tell you that we have kids that, our spectrum is big. We had kids that now are graduating into universities because we figured out certain components, and then we just thought that it was internal until we realized that it wasn't, and that we could externally do what we do here by showing you how we do it over the last 19 years of this structure for No Limits Academy. So there's many more stories. There's when you go to a prescribed extended daycare, a lot of times those components aren't there either, and we see those kids come in and they wake up because there's all these components that we're thinking of that no one else is. So I encourage you greatly to check out the No Limits method. I truly believe that we can make those differences in those kids' lives and we can change how education goes forward if the two parties and the two professional voices and the other professional voices involved in these children, I'm talking ABA, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, and the teachers, who are all these professionals, right, work together to create a better outcome for these kids. And I appreciate you being with us here on the No Limits podcast for kids with unique abilities. And please follow, like us, share us to other people so that we can get our message out. We're these mom warriors. I need your help. I need your help getting this out. So I'm a mom warrior, been that way for many, many years, and I need more mom warriors on my team. So thanks for being with us today.